to the segment of WSU News and to the students that landed back from Nepal. As you have been away from home, Danielle and I thought it would be best to give you a quick update on the news that had everyone talking. Today's topics include APEC Summit, sacking, Scott Morrison address in Townsville, and a special weather report from Australia's drought crisis. We have some breaking news tonight here from Melbourne.
About the individual who police shot and has died at hospital. From what we know of that individual, we are treating this as a terrorism incident. We now know a bit more about the identity of that person. Initially, that person didn't have any identification on them, but we believe we now have a confirmation on the identity of that person. For operational reasons, we now have the Counter-Terrorism Command and the Homicide Squad dealing with this matter. In relation to that person, he is known to police. He's known to police mainly in respect to relatives that he has that are certainly persons of interest to us. And he's someone that accordingly is known to both Victoria Police and the Federal Intelligence Authority.
Wow, I'm glad you're okay there. Now, at the start of our journey, Australia was in shock when our very own Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull was overthrown. Let's get a quick recap.
We woke up with Peter Dutton in pole position to pinch the Prime Ministership. But then Treasurer Scott Morrison came out of nowhere and into contention. And then, the government actually pulled the plug on Parliament.
Shut it down.
The House stands adjourned until Monday, 10 September 2018 at 10 a.m.
Shut it down.
That bought Team Turnbull some time.
I now await a letter with the signatures of a majority of the party.
You'll be here the rest of your days, all the while contemplating the choices you've made.
In the case of Mr Dutton, I think he'll have to establish that he is eligible to sit in the Parliament.
How about that? Big rookie mistake.
Peter Dutton has a family trust that has an interest in childcare centres, and they've received about $5 million in government subsidies for childcare. Not personally, that money has gone back to parents, but that's where the issue arises.
Yep, Big Mal just dropped a big Section 44-shaped anvil squarely on Peter Dutton's head.
Malcolm Turnbull's move is designed to fatally wound Peter Dutton.
Then he went full Rambo on the rats in his ranks.
A minority in the party room, supported by others outside the Parliament, have sought to bully, intimidate others into making this change.
Burn! Burn! Burn!
So as a result, our new PM is this guy, and with him came a whole bunch of other leaders. One who was fortunate enough to meet was David Coleman, the new Immigration, Citizenship and Multicultural Affairs Ministers. Let's see what he had to say.
I have an electorate just a couple of k's down the road, which is very multicultural and has quite a large Arabic-speaking community, and so have had quite a bit of involvement over the years with different groups in the Arabic-speaking community. But if there are more things that can be done and more issues that we can look at, we should look at those things and keen to just have a chat.
It seems like our audio wasn't working there. So just to summarise that clip, it was a discussion on how a new Member of Parliament wishes to serve the communities and the organisations such as Arab Council Australia.
Disputes between the US and China have derailed the APEC discussions in PNG. Leaders failed to agree on a final communique for the summit. This is the first time in history. Here is Peter Jennings to discuss what this means for Australia.
entering into a new era of public and fairly hard-edged strategic competition between China and the United States, which started with trade but is very quickly moving into defence and military fields as well. So I think that is a significant development, even though this was a pretty good summit for Australia, I think, in terms of the announcements of our closer relationship with Papua New Guinea.
Australia does seem to be paying more attention to the region, which is great, but it's hard not to be somewhat sceptical and question the motivations behind that. I think that certainly Pacific Island states have legitimate concerns and needs that major powers in the region should be facing, and it shouldn't all be about strategic power play and strategic balancing. It'd be nice if we could have some conversation around human rights and climate change and development needs. So I think we need to navigate this time fairly carefully.
Peter Jennings.
So Daniela, I saw this clip and it made me think of you.
I also think that what people are starting to see, at least in the occupation of Palestine, is...
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
Yes, that was me at the beginning of our journey, Eliza. I was given the task to research Australia's response to the Israel and Palestine conflict, and I could proudly say that at the beginning, Australia could have been me. The topic alone took me weeks to start grasping ideas, but since we're only broadcasting for a short amount of time, let me bring it a bit back to Australian society. Now, not many of you would have known this, but Max Brenner was actually one of the original organisations that Australians started boycotting in relation to the Israeli and Palestinian conflict. During my interview with Anthony Lawson, I asked him, a well-known journalist on the topic and an Australian, what he thought on the topic. Let's see what he has to say.
Dished up the last of their sweet treats today. 20 stores have now officially shut up shop, with 17 continuing on as usual. Newtown, Parramatta and Wollongong are among those that have closed. The luxury chocolate brand opened in Australia almost 20 years ago, the company going into voluntary administration last week. More than 600 staff have been made redundant.
A big part of my research has been on the PNG earthquake, which struck in February 2018. I was assessing the private sector response, as many people affected by the earthquake were inaccessible via roads due to inaccessibility. Therefore, organisations such as Oil Search became first responders in delivering aid and medical supplies via air, with relief efforts up to $5 million USD. This news segment is all too familiar to myself, as this story is close to home. This affects every country family like my own. It is one that affects every farmer like my dad, and it is called the drought. Australia's drought is one of the worst in history. The dry spell right now in Queensland and New South Wales is at 100%, with it dipping further south into Victoria as the rain continues to hold off. This has prompted the New South Wales government to announce a $500 million relief package. And this is the story of the drought.
It's been 2 years since Will last had grass on his property for his sheep and cattle to eat.
So Will, how much are you spending on feed a day?
$1,000 a day now just for the sheep.
And what about your cattle?
Yeah, and the cattle are equivalent.
So you're spending $2,000 a day?
A day, per day.
On feed?
Just to make sure these sheep survive.
Yeah.
That's borrowed money. He hasn't had an income for nearly 2 years. He's been hand feeding for 7 months. And still, the rain looks like it will never come.
Every day, 7 days a week, you see death, you have to shoot starving stock or kangaroos,
Mate, how do you deal with it?
Well, you got to do it, I suppose.
Just go out and do it. You just can't let it get you down, or?
Yeah, you can't. Well, yeah, that's right. I mean, obviously, it does affect people. I mean, you're up bloody middle of the night thinking about what your next day is. I think most people are up at 4:35 and going. You got to deal with it.
Will can't afford to transport his sheep to market because they'll sell for next to nothing.
Not worth it.
Well, bullet's cheaper, 44 cents.
Cheaper to shoot them?
Cheaper to shoot your sheep than it is to send them away to market.
It's a tough gig. It's a real tough gig. And
You talk about resilience. Well, you'll see some pretty resilient people come out of this. And if you weren't now, well, you certainly will at the end of it.